Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025, and the longest Ballot Kid gets to be on the CBC. That's a little weird, right? Him and Rosemary Barton are guffing it up together, having a laugh, joking around. It's a little weird, inappropriate maybe. She reframes the whole election interference as a protest, and what is he, 12? He talks about those days when he was a teenager. Like yesterday? Like what? So this kid is, it's interesting what's going on in Canadian elections, and I'm shocked that more people aren't very upset about it. U.S. aid was funding Hamas. I'm shocked. Holy cow. We knew that. There was pictures of U.S. aid crates with Hamas in the Middle East at some point in time recently. Wasn't John McCain standing in the picture? I digress. I'm not shocked, but apparently that funding is dried up. And so that's interesting. And Trump's got a long time left in his term. So how long before Hamas isn't viable just because the U.S. aid funding is dried up? That's interesting, right? And isn't that funding both sides, right? Like, wouldn't Israel be pissed about that? Like, okay, consultants are building a digital ID system for Canada. They called up GC Strategies to see if they had any idea how to build a digital ID thing, because people keep talking about it and Canada doesn't want to be left behind. So they're going to hire GC Strategies. I'm joking, but that's not far off from the truth, actually, in a sad, twisted kind of way. Housing sales are tanking in the GTA. Not surprising, because it seems like having houses churn, or anybody able to have any kind of upward mobility at all, meaning if you have an apartment, you can move up into like a detached or single or a semi-detached house, something to that effect. No upward mobility in Canada, and the houses just aren't selling. And so what's going on with that? Waiting for the price correction, but is this going to be a big housing crash worse than 2008 or the 1990s, right? Is this going to be bad? How bad is it going to be? Interprovincial trade. There are people who are talking about how they live very close to Alberta, but they can't export their meat to Alberta because of interprovincial trade rules that Mark Carney said would be gone by Canada Day, which is July 1st. And while here we are, July 22nd, and it's not gone. And so that's concerning, right? And the CPC finally has broken their silence about Tamara Lich. And it only took to the day before sentencing, where the Crown is seeking almost 10 years for mischief, while violent criminals are let out daily, before the investigation's even done. We don't even know what happened here, but we're pretty sure we've got to let you go, sir, right this way, right? Like, phone call, schmone call, just call somebody to pick you up. It's really, really weird what's going on. And I think that it's obvious it betrays the motivation from our government. They're not motivated to build a better Canada for the citizens who live here and pay taxes here. No, they're globalists who are working for anybody but the Canadian citizen. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we're starting with Tamara Lich. And Tamara Lich says, after 3 long days on the road, we've arrived in Ottawa. It's impossible to drive across this beautiful, rugged country and feel even an ounce of bitterness. I've got so much to catch up on. But first, sleep. So she's there, and we're going to have an update on what's going on with this. Maybe this will happen. So apparently, this is the first I've heard of this. I think this is a recent situation. This is posted on yesterday, July 21st. And Eli, I think that's Eli, sorry if it's not, says a reminder that the Crown, the government, the state wants 7 years jail time and 8 times for Tamara Lich and 8 years for Chris Barber. But J.M. Davies says more big terrorism news out of Canada. A woman has been convicted of traveling to join the Islamic State. This is the second successful prosecution of a woman for terrorism charges in Canadian history. The sentence, 1 day in prison. So the Crown wanted 1 day in prison to punish this woman for going to join the Islamic State or ISIS. 1 day in prison. Tamara Lich, 7 years. Chris Barber, 8 years. Weird, right? Weird. So Pierre finds his voice and says, let's get this straight. While rampant violent offenders are released hours after their most recent charges, and anti-Semitic rioters vandalized businesses, terrorized daycares, and blocked traffic without consequences, the Crown wants 7 years prison time for the charge of mischief for Lich and Barber. How is this justice? It's not justice, but this is also not really calling it out. He's shoehorning anti-Semitism into this. Anti-Semitic rioters probably deserve their own post, Pierre Poilievre. We could focus in on the Crown wanting 7 and 8 years for Tamara Lich. Anti-Semitism being shoehorned in is almost like a celebrity covering one eye or putting up 3 fingers or something like that on a magazine cover because it signals something to somebody. And those people who are watching, they know what that means. To everybody else, they just ignore it. You know, like a kid watching a movie that's too old for them, they see these things and it doesn't register with them. They don't pay much attention to it, right? And so it's very interesting how right out in the open. And is this a great statement? Some people like it. Chase says, incredibly based statement from Pierre. I think it's a big mess personally. Rotten says, no, Based would have been saying something before receiving harsh criticism for staying silent. Based is being proactive, not reactive. He needs to win a by-election. This is nothing more than saying whatever he thinks will win him a seat. Yeah, that's the criticism by and large. And I don't have Pierre's original tweet, but there's a lot of criticism blowing back on Pierre Poilievre from the usual camps everywhere, really. Even conservative people, Mr. Sunshine Baby, notably, has basically said, like, what the hell's wrong with all of these people? So all of the people who seem to be in a trance during the election and after the election, it seems to be breaking and they're realizing that they're getting played hard, right? And I thought yesterday when I saw this, Andrew Lawton, all of the conservatives have now, because the leaders weighed in, they're now all allowed to say something about this. So Andrew Lawton is talking about Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. He says, the prosecution of Tamara Lich and Chris Barber have been excessive and vindictive. The Crown is seeking a 7-year sentence, 8 for Chris, for a 3-week peaceful protest almost 3.5 years ago, all while violent offenders are given slaps on the wrist. He's right. I thought there was cracks in the Conservative Party forming, and I thought that was going to be interesting, but nope, he's just following along with the leader. I hadn't seen Pierre Poilievre's tweet on the whole thing yet. So, and again, all of the Conservatives are now kind of in a cacophony saying, yes, oh, this is terrible. But fake doesn't quite cover it. It seems like, they're worried their leader's not going to win that by-election, right? So I don't know. I'm suspect on the whole thing. Antonio says Canada needs another freedom convoy. Antonio's not the only person I've seen calling for this. I thought it was interesting. Chanel Fall is another one that I saw calling for a freedom convoy. She said, if Chris and Tamara get anything close to 7 or 8 years, we're all going back to Wellington Street, right? I think that's what Chanel said. And I'm glad people want to do something. I have no idea what to do practically, because Doug Ford has made very clear that it would be illegal to do a convoy thing. If you did a convoy thing to Ottawa, trucks are not allowed, and they've got all sorts of legal protections. So what the trucker convoy did was expose a weakness, and Ottawa has moved to, and Ontario has moved to close that weakness off. So you can't do the same thing again, unfortunately. And so I'm glad that there are people who want to push back. I'm glad there are people who want to express their displeasure with what's going on. I agree. I don't know the best way to express my displeasure with what's going on. Honestly, genuinely, I don't know if it's a tax revolt. I don't know if it's supporting a party that doesn't support any of this. I don't know if it's both of those things. I don't know what else you can realistically do. Supporting convoys seems to get people in trouble. Running convoys seems to get people in trouble, but you can run pro-Palestinian protests that are destructive, violent, intimidating, all sorts of things without any kind of penalty at all whatsoever. And so isn't that interesting? We're meant to notice these things, right? And so the Conservative Party being silent on this is up till now. And then what they're saying about it is too little, too late, and not nearly enough. And so it's very, very interesting. I'm glad people are pushing back. I just don't know the best way to effectively do this. Antonio continues, our government is so corrupt that real criminals are let loose, and people standing up to the government and protesting in a peaceful manner do jail time. Yeah, that's the game. So we have to recognize the game we're in. Otherwise, we're going to lose or not be effective because our game won't affect their game, right? They'll say, oh, isn't that an interesting game over there? I wonder why they're playing checkers. We're killing them in this chess game over here that they don't seem to be moving it, right? Like, so we're playing the wrong game while getting destroyed in the real game. Here's this guy, and he's talking about why are we accepting this? What's going on? Here you go.
Let's try something that the media refuses to talk about, okay? That Freedom Convoy and what's happening to Tamara and Chris right now, would the same thing be happening to them if they weren't white, if they were wearing turbans, and if the whole affair was about Free Palestine or something else? Would we be having this discussion? Would Chris and Tamara still be going to court 3 years after the event? I don't think so. The reason that they're being attacked is because they can be. It's easy to hit a white guy. Nobody says a word about it. But God help you if you happen to be an Indian or a black or anything else, because then you're a goddamn racist. Anybody else getting sick of this horse shit?
Yeah. Yep. Super sick of it. And I'm sick of our institutions being compromised, and I'm sick of our government being compromised to a globalist uniparty. Sick of all of it. Yep, absolutely. But I also see the reality of the situation, and I watched Lula take over Brazil. I watched the battle that is against Trump right now, and it's still against Trump. And I don't even know if Trump's a good guy, honestly, at this point in time. He just doesn't want what the globalists want. But who knows if he's working for you and me or somebody else. And I mean, me, I'm not an American citizen. Who knows if he's working for the American citizens and sane, normal, regular, everyday American citizens, or if he's working for another power faction. And I genuinely don't know. And maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. I don't know. But in all this madness, I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it. We don't seem to have the ability to have an impact on their game, no matter what we do. The Freedom Convoy came close, and that scared the hell out of them. Trump seems to be coming close, and they hate that, and they're doing everything they can to get rid of him. Anybody else who seems to be, I mean, France voted for other people and has been in, I wouldn't say a state of civil war, but there's civil unrest in France. Like, they had the Yellow Jackets, they've had marches on the street. Same thing in the United Kingdom. All of these situations are happening, and we don't have a real representative government in the West at all, maybe worldwide. And until we recognize and start dealing with that fact, we're not going to fix it, right? Like, it's like dealing with, it's like the trash is not being processed anywhere. It's piling up at the trash center. Nobody's coming to pick it up at all. And you keep putting it out to the curb. Like, that's not solving the problem. You know what I mean? We need to fix the problem at the source, because if we don't fix the problem at the source, the trash is just going to keep stacking up. And so we're missing the game. We're putting out our garbage regularly, and we're standing there going, any day that truck's going to come, but it's not coming. And we're not taking action to go and find out what's wrong. We're not taking action to go and investigate. We're just standing there going, I put my trash out. I wonder where the truck is, because it should be here. Maybe tomorrow. And that's all we do. And that's weird, right? We're not responding to this, and we should be responding to this. Wiretap Media is responding to Keith. Keith says the ongoing criminal trial, now approaching 2 years, has consumed millions of taxpayer dollars with an already overburdened justice system. Daily instances of ineffective catch and release policies highlighting the strain in our courts, where scarce resources are stretched thin. Prolonged delays and the disproportionate allocation of judicial resources to a single case undermine public confidence in the administration of justice. These concerns can be raised by Mr. Poilievre without violating the sub-justice rule. He can advocate for a fairer and more efficient system that serves all Canadians, but has chosen not to do so. So he could speak about this without violating the rules about speaking about something before the courts, and yet he does not speak about it. And he proved it by speaking about it today, but too little too late, as I said. Wiretap says Pierre Poilievre's camp and CPC HQ have been running a damage control counter-narrative about their ability to speak on Tamara Lich and Chris Barber's situation. It's all bullshit. Stand for the people that put your asses in those seats, you spineless people. And same with Danielle Smith. I feel like these people are not honestly representing the people that they should be representing. Danielle Smith rode to power saying that she was going to protect Archer Pawlowski and look into the things that happened. And then as soon as she got into office, that's illegal. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I should have known that beforehand. Yeah, well, that didn't stop you from campaigning on it, right? And the fact, maybe she didn't know it beforehand, but what's your game, Danielle Smith? Mark Nixon's talking about the longest ballot. And I was saying I thought 200 candidates. Apparently it's only 137 as of yesterday, according to Mark Nixon. And he's pretty reliable, right? I've had lots of news from him be accurate, so I'm inclined to believe him. So he says there are now 137 candidates in the Battle River Crowfoot by-election. 22 of them were on the Carleton ballot. So 22 of these candidates have parachuted in from Carleton to challenge Pierre Poilievre. Isn't that interesting? There's a list of the 22 that were, including Pierre Poilievre, that were running in Carleton in the longest ballot situation. Weird, right? Weird. And somebody asks, should they not have to live there? And Mark says they don't have to live there, but need 100 signatures. So they need 100 signatures, but that's it. That's really it. And that's true. You can, in a federal election, you can run in any riding you want, so long as you get the 100 signatures. And so isn't that interesting? Here's the longest ballot kid. And I was making fun of how young he is. I'm not sure he can grow facial hair. And I'm only half joking. Okay. So Ryan says, why was Barton laughing during this interview with this weasel? Of course, CBC gave this clown a platform to spew his nonsense. The minute the longest ballot committee specifically targeted 2 ridings involving Pierre Poilievre, their true mission was revealed. And regardless of all of that, it is inappropriate for the ballot to get out of hand like this, right? Like, this is not serving the public of the Canadian public, the citizens of Battle River Crowfoot. It's certainly not. And so here's this guy. He's very young, and here's Misha Barton running cover for him, saying this is a protest, framing it as a protest, when I think it is genuinely election interference. Here's this guy. Look how young he is.
What made you decide to get involved in the longest ballot protest movement?
Well, ever since I was a teenager watching the elections happen on election night and seeing all the numbers tally up, I've been really seeing a discrepancy between the number of votes and the amount of seats that are attributed in the parliament. And I think that's something we have to fight for, because our current electoral system is a massive conflict of interest, where the parties in power control the way our votes are tallied up.
Okay, so in order to do that, part of this movement is putting lots of names on the ballot, which is the case for Les Alimard Verdun tomorrow, and your name is one of them. Is that right?
That is correct.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, it's actually been really amazing talking to people about electoral reform, because it's an issue.
I don't know. Rosemary looks like she's about to burst out laughing, and she's having a big old joke about this whole longest ballot thing. It's very serious. I don't think it's legitimate. Wab Canoe in Manitoba I don't think it's a legitimate thing to do. Again, I don't think it serves the public interest. Here's the real Mr. Bench, and he says Manitoba Premier Wab Canoe mocks a reporter asking about the Spruce Grove by-election. And surprising, right? Canadians are supposed to have a voice represented into the legislature, but our government, our whole system is fundamentally broken. I don't think that even if you have a representative, do you feel represented by your representative? I've talked to my representatives multiple times at multiple levels in Guelph, MP, MPP, mayor, and so on, and had one-on-one meetings with them, discussed policy, pointed out bad policy, said, like, it doesn't make any sense to continue to do this. This is insane. And the people don't seem to listen. They don't seem to understand or care about the points you make, regardless of how valid the points are. I mean, handing drugs out to addicts is a terrible policy. You don't affirm somebody who's anorexic. You're not like, oh man, you are kind of fat, actually. Totally true. You don't do that. And so, like, what are we doing, right? Why does this make any sense? Here, oh man, it looks like you need a fix. Here, I've preloaded this injectable thing for you, right? Like, do you want me to light your crack for you while you just sit there and, like, could I drop a grape into your mouth too at the same time? What, right? How does this make any sense? Here's Wab Canoe dodging accountability. Again, I don't think that anybody in the government works for us. Here we go.
You seem to be really on this really narrow thing, Bartley.
It's been over 110 days here in Spruce Woods. How much longer are people going to have to be without a voice before something gets called?
What's the rush?
Well, it's people's voices that aren't being heard right now.
Who's talking to you about that? I for sure the PCs are sending you news releases, but have you been hearing that from actual residents?
Voice, so.
Do you feel you don't have a voice?
I mean, without a representative, yes.
Well, I'm your premier. What would you like me to do?
Call the by-election.
Why?
So I have my representative back.
Oh, it seems like you're taking a very hard line opinion in terms of this news article you're going to be writing.
I'm your premier. What would you like me to do? I want you to call a by-election. And then he deflects. This is kind of how meetings between myself and my representatives go as well. They deflect and make fun of you while committing in words or making fun of you that they're not going to do at all what you want them to do.
Are you going to declare that?
With the Apple, can you answer his question, please?
What? What question?
The question.
Poilievre?
You're doing the Poilievre Apple thing with him.
What is that?
Be nice.
I'm being nice. I'm
That's not
smiling.
nice. That's pretend nice. Please, ask
It's
him.
not pretend nice. I'm having fun. He knows the rules of the game just as you do. This is not a firing line. This is a scrum. We're having a back and forth.
What? Answer the question, for crying out loud, right? These people don't represent us. Here's Doug Ford spending a crap ton of money. He says, this morning, Canada's premiers arrived in Muskoka for our Council of Federation meeting. Together, we're united in standing up for Canada coast to coast to coast. Coast to coast to coast. He's the premier of Ontario. He's not the leader of the Conservative Party. What the heck? Coast to coast to coast. Do we have 3 coasts in Ontario? There's the Lake Ontario and like, what? Here is the video. And well, Ryan says, what an epic waste of time, money, and resources. Just look at the size of their SUV motorcade. So this is the same video Doug Ford posted. Here we go. Okay, so here's the motorcade, just paused really quickly. The whole thing doesn't fit in one picture, I guess, right? Exit 189 here. And you've got 1 car, 2 car, 3 car, 4. Actually, these are all SUVs. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 SUVs in the motorcade here that we can see. Crazy. Like that's too many SUVs. Guys, you got 4 to an SUV, okay? Doug Ford maybe 3, but 4 to an SUV mostly. Lots more footage of the SUVs. Here's a double. The SUVs have to park side by side because there's so many of them. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? That's 14? Wow. Yikes. Lots of wasted money. They don't have meeting rooms in Ottawa? They don't have meeting rooms in Toronto? Come on. Liz says her Doug Ford's event hosting the premiers this week involves a private concert for them. If true, how much are the plebs paying for this? And I said, who's headlining? Do we know? Apparently it's Blue Rodeo, but she doesn't know. She says, I don't know. Might be Blue Rodeo, but I may have heard it wrong as I was running around the house doing stuff. Private concert from Blue Rodeo. My gosh. Terrible. National Post says no consensus among First Nations after meeting with the premier about major projects. So we're going to go up north and we're going to have a private concert. They didn't like the Blue Rodeo apparently, and that soured the whole deal. Gone. I'm out of here. Blue Rodeo. I mean, come on, right? Dr. Mike Moffat says, I think this meets the technical definition of not good. The sale of new homes in the GTA has virtually stopped. So 2019 had 12,000 homes sold. 2020, 12,000 homes sold. 2021, 20,000 homes sold. Yikes, pandemic hangover. 2022, 16,000 homes. 2023, 8,000. 2024, 4,000. Going on 5,000, but the numbers sus. And then 2025, 1,965. Not quite 2,000 yet. So do you think we'll hit 4,000? I mean, there's only 5 months left, right? 5 months left in the year now. So do you think we'll hit that? So I don't know. Do you think we'll hit close to the 2024 numbers? I have no idea. And I don't know if this is right up until like July. This is May, January to May, right? So January to May, they may be on track to have a better year than 2024, but it's not great, right? So I'd be interested to see what the sales are from May to now. And if that's any kind of rebound, we'll see. Here's Blacklock's reporter, and they're quoting themselves. The federal government employment and social services, programs and services, hire consultants at an undisclosed cost to build digital ID system for the general public, a scheme so mammoth and complex it requires expertise we don't have in-house. How do you build a digital ID? I don't know. Outsource it. Okay, sounds good. Call GC Strategies. Blacklock says building this kind of system is complex and requires certain specialized tools and expertise we don't have in-house. Based on international best practices, we are asking the industry to help. Digital credentials issue, Department of Social Development, May 20th. No budget was disclosed. Yeah, we don't need to tell you how much we're spending. We're hiring somebody at an undisclosed price, and they may or may not outsource it, and we may or may not have a digital system. I mean, the good news is the programmers they generally hire are crap. And the products they generally put out don't get broad adoption, and they fail. Like they failed with the Canada Passport app thing. I think they're still trying to make it work, but People don't want it. People don't want it. They're not going to use it, and I'm not going to use it. So like, you could try and make me use it, and I'm just going to make life miserable for you, right? Like absolutely miserable. You think you're going to make my life miserable, but you think you're trapped. You think I'm trapped in here with you, but you're trapped in here with me, right? Like you've got to deal with me, buddy. Like, so sure, you want to make my life hell? Right back at you. No problem. And you can use tools like registered letters, like all sorts of things. You can use tools. There are things you can do to put pressure on governments, but again, they don't care, unfortunately. It says, building this kind of system, we don't have in-house based on international best practices. We're asking industry to help. If nobody can do it, I guess China could do it, right? They could just lift China's, and I'm sure China would be all over that. But if nobody in-house can do it, should we really be doing it? Probably not. Toronto Sun is reporting CBC hands out record-breaking raises to offset loss of executive bonuses. So it's in the millions of dollars range. Hold on, there's more color on this. I forgot to highlight though. Just months after Canada's national broadcaster announced the end of big money bonuses to its senior executives, newly obtained documents suggest that the CBC handed out a record-setting amount of raises during the previous fiscal year. In access to information documents obtained by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, the CBC handed out no bonuses in 24-25, but awarded $37.7 million in wage hikes to 6,295 employees. That's an average of $6,000 per employee. And you better believe most employees got $2,000, and the top brass got multiple millions. CTF Federal Director Franco Tetrazzino described it as sleight of hand by the CBC. The CBC isn't saving people money if it's replacing taxpayer-funded bonuses with higher taxpayer-funded pay raises. Yep, so lots of money, wasted money. Jonathan Kay is responding to Cosman. Cosman says nurses in Canada now have to denounce white European-centric medicine as part of their professional ethics obligations. The Canadian Nurses Association 2025 Code of Ethics is a far-left loyalty oath, not a guide for healthcare professionals. And Jonathan says, wow, this is insane. How did we let these whack job cultists take over our professional organizations? They took over the government first. And so the professional organizations were child's play after they had the government. Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom says nurse Amy Ham has filed 2 human rights complaints with the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal, arguing that Vancouver Coastal Health and the British Columbia College of Nurses and Midwives discriminated against her on the basis of her political belief. These applications are in response to both organizations targeting Ms. Ham for her views on gender issues and women's rights. The first application to the BC Human Rights Tribunal has been filed against Vancouver Coast Health VCH, arguing that discrimination based on her political beliefs precipitated Ms. Ham's termination for cause. The second application has been filed against the British Columbian College of Nurses and Midwives on March 13th, 25, following a 23-day hearing that spanned 18 months. The college found Ms. Ham guilty of unprofessional conduct based on her online comments it described as discriminatory and derogatory to receive regular updates, blah, blah, blah. So that's interesting, and I hope Amy Ham has good luck facing off against these insane people. And it doesn't seem like, again, sanity is required for the judge to rule in somebody else's favor and to rule against people like Amy Ham. Sanity is not part of the equation. It seems like it's all a power equation. And if you get a bad judge, then you get a bad judge. And they will give you a bad outcome. And then that becomes law more broadly because it's already been tested in court and decided and so on and so forth. So, man, it concerns me, but we have to go through this because we have to restore that sanity. But the institutions are cracked. The judiciary doesn't work for us. The government doesn't work for us. And so if we play these games, they're stacked for us to lose. And that sucks. Danielle Smith is promoting the Pacin Podcast. Pacin, this guy, was on TVO for a long while. And he lied about, he pushed all of the approved government talking points through COVID, through all of it. He was on board with vaccine mandates. He was on board with mask mandates. He was on board with all of it. Okay. He didn't push back at all. He didn't say, hold on, this sounds a little bit hinky. He was saying those anti-maskers need to be put in jail. What is it? The hotels, the quarantine hotels this is very, very good idea, top priority. Maybe we should have quarantine hotels for anti-vaxxers type deal. Like, this guy was all in. He loved this, all of it. And now he's moved to doing a Pacin podcast, and Danielle Smith's promoting it. I don't think so, right? Like, I don't think so. The Pacin Podcast says, for some reason, they, the top brass, decided that the mainstream media didn't want conservative voices and didn't want conservative viewers. Alberta Premier on anti-conservative bias in Canada, the CBC, and this guy. But Danielle Smith says, good journalism is fair, accurate, and balanced. It's time for the mainstream media to return to that to better serve the public. They're not going to return to that. This is just a move from platform that gets no viewership to a platform that might get some viewership. And he's trying to say, look, I'm all legitimate because I was on TV. Sorry, dude. Like, you were on TV because somebody wanted you on TV to say certain specific things, probably. And now the Mockingbird media, the influence sphere has shifted online. And so the Mockingbird media have to go online too. And in order to get an audience, they need to have legitimacy, right? Or nobody will watch them. And so Danielle Smith is handing over legitimacy to the Pacin Podcast by doing it, right? So I find it interesting, notable, right? And so is this fair, accurate, and balanced? I don't know. I don't think so. Contrarian says, do you want solid proof China was and is helping Mark Carney? China owns TikTok. They don't own X or Instagram. If you post a negative video on TikTok about Mark Carney, you get almost no views. But on other platforms, it gets thousands of views, right? Anecdotal, but plausible. Plausible, I think. Concerning as well. Oh, good news, everybody. We're going to have to cut off the stream in a minute, but this is hilarious. And I thought this was the most ridiculous story I've seen in a while. And it's showing chicken nuggets. And one time I saw Jamie Oliver go into a school, make chicken nuggets with like the garbage chicken left over after he chopped up a chicken. He made chicken nuggets with like the garbage, and he made them look really good. And he served it to the kids, and they watched him make it. And he's like, I can't believe you kids are going to eat this. Like, what are you doing? Why are you eating this? Like, you should say you don't want to eat this. So chicken nuggets have not that I think it's garbage meat. I think they've fixed things, but I think in the early 2000s, chicken nuggets were among the worst of the worst foods you could get anywhere. Anyway, CTV News with chicken nuggets as the image in the tweet. They say, eating this ultra processed food may be good for you and the planet, experts